For years, the story of Jeffrey Epstein has remained one of the most disturbing and mysterious scandals in modern history. What began as a criminal investigation into a wealthy financier slowly evolved into something much larger, a global web of powerful individuals, hidden relationships, and unanswered questions that continue to haunt institutions around the world. Even today, long after Epstein's death, the full truth about his network remains buried beneath millions of pages of documents, thousands of images, and evidence that much of the public will likely never see. Recently, new documents released by the Department of Justice have reignited the controversy. Millions of files connected to Epstein's operations were quietly made available, but most people barely noticed. Within these records are thousands of pages of emails, travel logs, financial transactions, and witness testimony. But there is one major problem. Large sections of these documents are heavily redacted. Entire names, conversations, and key details have been blacked out before the files ever reach the public. Officials claim these redactions were necessary to protect victims. Protecting victims of trafficking is obviously critical, but investigators and journalists quickly notice something troubling. The names hidden behind those black bars are not only victims. Some of them appear to belong to extremely powerful individuals who are still alive today, people who currently hold positions in politics, finance, business, and global institutions. As soon as the documents were released, independent researchers began analyzing them. Online investigators started comparing flight logs, event photos, email timestamps, and travel schedules. Within hours, a massive collaborative investigation began unfolding across the internet, and what they discovered raised even more questions. According to the documents, Epstein maintained an astonishingly large network of connections around the world. His contact list included billionaires, scientists, politicians, celebrities, and members of royal families. His private plane logs alone showed dozens of powerful individuals traveling with him over the years. But the documents also reveal something that few people expected: extensive references to Russia. Justice Department records reportedly mention Russia thousands of times. The name of Russian President Vladimir Putin appears in the files more than 1,000 times in connection with communications and contacts inside Epstein's broader network. Travel records indicate that Epstein made several trips to Russia and obtained business visas there. According to investigators, he also had individuals working as recruiters who scouted young women in multiple countries, including Russia. These recruitment operations followed a similar pattern to the ones investigators documented in the United States and Europe. The documents also suggest that Epstein attempted to establish back-channel communications with high-ranking Russian officials, including attempts to arrange contact with President Vladimir Putin himself. In some communications, Epstein reportedly claimed that he could offer insight or advice related to American politics, including interactions involving former President Donald Trump. While the exact context of these communications remains unclear, they demonstrate just how internationally connected Epstein's network truly was. But the most controversial part of the document release involves the names that were deliberately hidden. When the files were first made public, many sections contained thick black bars where names had been removed. Two lawmakers, Congressman Thomas Massie and another congressional representative, later visited the Department of Justice to review the unredacted files directly. They reportedly spent about 2 hours examining the documents. What they discovered shocked them. According to their statements, between 70% and 80% of the files remain redacted from the public version. Even more troubling, they discovered that 6 extremely wealthy and powerful individuals had been hidden without any clear explanation. After the lawmakers pointed this out to officials, the Department of Justice reportedly acknowledged the issue and later released those names. Among the individuals identified were several global business figures, including Sultan Ahmed bin Salayem, the CEO of Dubai Ports World. Another name that stood out was billionaire retail magnate Les Wexner. Les Wexner is one of the most important figures in the entire Epstein story. For many years, Wexner was Epstein's primary financial patron. He granted Epstein extraordinary control over portions of his personal fortune, and even transferred ownership of a massive Manhattan mansion to him. This financial backing helped Epstein build the elite lifestyle that allowed him to attract powerful connections. Without Wexner's support, many investigators believe Epstein's entire network might never have existed. When Wexner later appeared before Congress to answer questions about his relationship with Epstein, a small moment during the hearing captured national attention. A hot microphone picked up Wexner's attorney whispering to him, "Keep your answers short." For critics, that moment symbolized something deeper. Instead of transparency and full disclosure, it appeared that legal teams were carefully managing how much information would actually reach the public. This pattern repeats throughout the Epstein story. Powerful individuals express regret after the scandal becomes public. Institutions conduct quiet internal investigations. Executives step down from their positions without explaining much. Lawsuits are settled privately without any admission of wrongdoing. And yet the central questions remain unanswered. Perhaps the most baffling part of Epstein's story is what happened after his first conviction. In 2008, Epstein pleaded guilty to charges involving the solicitation of minors. He served time in jail and became a registered sex offender. In most situations, a conviction like that would destroy someone's social life and professional reputation. But in Epstein's case, the opposite happened. After serving his sentence, he continued attending elite social gatherings. He maintained contact with powerful individuals in business, politics, and science. He hosted private dinners and meetings with influential guests. Photographs, flight logs, and event records show that Epstein continued moving through elite circles almost as if nothing had happened. This raises an obvious and uncomfortable question. Why would so many powerful people continue interacting with a convicted sex offender? Some observers argue that many people simply ignored the warning signs. Others believe Epstein possessed compromising information that made it difficult for people to distance themselves from him. Court documents reveal that Epstein carefully cultivated environments where powerful individuals could gather privately. These events often took place on private planes, luxury yachts, and his now infamous private island. The settings were exclusive, secretive, and tightly controlled. According to some investigators, Epstein deliberately created situations where powerful guests could be placed in compromising circumstances. If those situations were documented, they could potentially become leverage. This theory has led some analysts to question whether Epstein's operation functioned as a form of blackmail network. While no official government report has confirmed this theory, many observers believe it could explain why so many influential individuals maintained relationships with him even after his conviction. Another controversial element of the Epstein story involves tech billionaire Bill Gates. According to emails referenced in the document releases, Epstein repeatedly mentioned Gates in communications and claimed he had facilitated meetings involving him. Bill Gates has acknowledged meeting Epstein multiple times. He later stated publicly that those meetings were a mistake and that he regretted ever interacting with him. But critics continue to ask a simple question. What exactly did Epstein offer someone like Bill Gates? Gates already possessed enormous wealth, global influence, and access to world leaders. Many observers struggle to understand why Gates would maintain any relationship with Epstein after his criminal conviction. Another interesting detail from the documents involves Joe Rogan. Emails suggest that physicist Lawrence Krauss once attempted to arrange a meeting between Rogan and Epstein. Epstein reportedly described Rogan as funny and expressed interest in connecting with him. Rogan declined the meeting and never became part of Epstein's social circle. This detail highlights an important point about Epstein's strategy. He was not only building relationships with politicians and billionaires, he was also trying to connect with influential cultural figures who had massive audiences. Control over public narratives can be just as powerful as political or financial influence. Epstein appeared to understand that. Rogan has also said that controversial broadcaster Alex Jones warned him about Epstein years before the scandal became public. At the time, many people dismissed those warnings as conspiracy theories. But when Epstein was eventually arrested in 2019, many of those early rumors suddenly appeared less unbelievable. This raises another important question. How many people suspected something was wrong long before the public knew about it? And how many people chose to remain silent? The Epstein case also reached deep into the global financial system. At one point, a senior lawyer at Goldman Sachs quietly stepped down after leaked emails revealed communications with Epstein that raised concerns. The firm did not publicly discuss the situation in detail. The resignation was quick and relatively quiet, following the same pattern seen across many institutions connected to the scandal. When problems surfaced, the response often seemed designed to minimize public attention, rather than fully explain what happened. For critics, this pattern suggests that Epstein's network may have benefited from institutional protection. In 2019, Epstein was arrested again on federal trafficking charges. Just weeks later, he was found dead in his jail cell. His death was officially ruled a suicide. But the circumstances surrounding his death immediately triggered widespread skepticism and controversy. Security cameras reportedly malfunctioned. Guards were not present at key moments. Several procedural failures occurred simultaneously. For many people, those details raise serious questions about how such a high-profile prisoner could die under federal supervision. With Epstein gone, the criminal case against him effectively ended. But the larger network around him did not disappear. Powerful institutions, financial systems, political networks, and social connections do not simply dissolve when one individual is removed. The relationships remain, the financial structures remain, and the documents remain. Even now, large portions of the Epstein files are still hidden from public view. Victims and their families continue to demand answers. They want to know who participated in Epstein's network. They want to know who enabled it. And they want to know who protected it. Many of the individuals whose names appear in the documents continue to hold positions of influence today. They run corporations, attend international events, and shape policy decisions. Meanwhile, the victims are still waiting for justice. Every new document release provides additional clues. Journalists, investigators, and independent researchers continue examining flight logs, emails, and financial records in an effort to understand the full scope of Epstein's network. With each new discovery, the picture becomes clear. The Epstein scandal is no longer just the story of one criminal. It has become a symbol of how power and influence can shield wrongdoing from accountability. The public is increasingly demanding transparency. People want the redacted names revealed. They want institutions to explain what they knew and when they knew it. And they want the individuals involved to answer questions publicly. The victims of Epstein's trafficking operation have waited for justice for decades. Many of them were teenagers when they were recruited. Many say their lives were permanently changed by the abuse they suffered. For them, the fight is not about politics or conspiracy theories. It is about accountability. The release of these documents may only be the beginning. More records could surface in the future. More names could emerge. And more questions could be raised about how such a massive operation was able to exist for so many years. Jeffrey Epstein is dead, but the system that allowed him to operate for decades is still being uncovered. The network he built may be gone from public view, but the evidence continues to surface piece by piece. And until the full truth is revealed, the story will continue. Because the world is still asking the same question it asked the moment the scandal first broke. Who else knew? And who will finally be held accountable?